Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this Thursday podcast. I'm your host, Adam Steele, and joining me is Liam Wright.
Hello.
I have completely lost track of what day it is. Happy New Christmas Year.
Yes.
We've just come out of that void of post-Christmas New Year thing. So, yeah, still literally, as you just heard, don't know what day it is. How are you?
I'm good on this New Year's Day.
It's a day in the new year. Yes.
Yeah, it is a day in the new year, indeed.
Yes, it's good to be back. I mean, I tried to have 2 weeks off, but I ended up having a day and a half off. And then
I full on this year managed to actually take majority of 2 weeks off, 2 weeks in a day, because Charlie messaged me saying, "Oh, it's bank holiday on Monday."
Right.
I was like, "Yeah, cool. All right, cool. See you on Tuesday." And then I messaged one of my clients to say the same thing, and he was like, "No, it's only Scottish bank holiday." I was like, "Yeah, I'm not going to tell Charlie that, because I feel that he probably needs an extra day, so I'm going to let him have a day, because he's not usually one for abiding by bank holidays, because he loves to work." So I was like,
yes,
sweet.
Yeah.
So we were Scottish for this. We celebrated Hogmanay.
Okay. Cheers.
Oh, what's that?
That is, and it's a rather big old-fashioned, which has got orange slices and maraschino cherries is what's darkening the colour. And it's got a giant ass ice ball in it that fills most of the glass.
Is it a tequila old-fashioned?
No, it's a proper old-fashioned. Oh, I can't drink tequila.
One of the things I have done over this holiday is play a lot of Cyberpunk. And that's one of the characters'
the Johnny
trademark drinks,
Silverhand. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been playing a bit of Cyberpunk, but I've not had.
Oh, have you got it?
Yeah. I got given it for Christmas. And
oh, sweet.
I have to say, on PS4 Pro, not nearly as bad as people are saying.
No, I mean, it's not a gaming podcast. Won't get into it, but people love to jump on a bandwagon.
Yeah.
Like, that game is not nearly as broken as people say it is. It's one of the best games I've ever played in my life. It's fantastic.
Yes.
I saw a couple it's not working on PS4 and Xbox right now, which is a problem. But yeah.
But that's the thing. Like, yeah, I played it on a PS4 Pro, which is a PS4 with a bit more. And I saw a floating gun at one point in the last 10 hours.
Well, I mean, you get that in loads of games. I had a guy get stuck in the floor, and then just as I was about to kill him, he jumped out the floor and insta-killed me. And I was like, oh, well.
Yeah. So,
fair enough.
Yeah.
Just laughed at it.
But those are the kind of things, like, if you've ever played a Saints Row game, they're built on that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, so you roll with it and it's fine. But yes.
Yeah. But anyway, as you say.
Did that. We got a Switch, which has meant that I've been trying to distribute my time between Mario Rabbids and Ring Fit Adventure. So that's been trying to keep me fit, but not. It's weird.
I haven't started Ring Fit yet. Ash has. She raves about it. Again, we're not a gaming podcast. Let's move on.
Yes. But also, I've been working behind the scenes just at my own pace, a holiday pace. For me, a holiday working pace is like a normal working pace, but with a drink in the hand. And so, I've been working with John Brown from Monuments again. We did a 10-hour tutorial with him, so that's fun. That's kept me out of trouble. I've also been catching up on editing, which news article of the week, the video that went out earlier today, the grand unveiling of the new Audient ID4 Mark II and the ID14 Mark II.
Ooh.
Yes. So the ID4 Mark II is in this here box and is nice and dark and very good. Sounds incredible for a little box. And the ID14 is actually under this desk here. See if I can do this without blowing anything up. I'm using it right now.
Ooh,
indeed. And it's I'm using the SM7B with it. No cloud lifter or anything like that, and it sounds great. Because that's the big complaint a lot of people have is with interfaces where you turn the gain up and it's got because the noise suddenly comes up. Then you have to go out and buy something like these cloud lifter things that make it louder. You don't with these new ones. It's great. So yeah, 20-minute video went out earlier today, and that's been a very successful video for us for the channel, because it was the Audient announced them yesterday, and my video was out today. Yeah, so that's been a tricky one to keep quiet, but yeah, I've got all the filming done for that, and that's coming out. The other mic that's usually here, the Shure MV7, the video was going out for that on Monday, I think. And
so how come you're using the SM7 instead of that?
Just because. I just wanted to try this on a podcast with the ID14 to try and kind of show off the ID14 a little bit, which is a really nice interface. I think next podcast I'm going to switch back to the MV7 just because then I don't need to get an interface involved at all for the podcast. So I can then dedicate the interface to a recording setup. It's a complete mess in this room right now. I'm glad you can't see it, but the plan is to have that ID14 Mark II with a proper little recording rig in here. So there's a table to the side of me, which I'm going to get rid of. I've got 2 amps underneath the desk here, which is great, except that I can't even put my feet under the desk. So I'm starting to get like knee cramps and stuff like that. So yeah. So I'm going to move all this round so I can actually sit comfortably. But I might not even get a chance to do that before we move house. That's my next thing.
Ooh.
Yes. We're in a terraced house in the middle of a small town in England. For anyone who's not familiar with terraced houses, it's where there's like a whole stack of houses together and we've got neighbours on either side. And there are cracks in the walls and it's all coming apart a little bit. So we're going to move to a house that's not falling apart.
Nice.
And hopefully the office there will be a little bit bigger as well, so we've got a bit more time, more space for me and Mickey to both work, and that'll be much better. So between
I know you won't want to give away the exact location on the stream, but what general area is staying close by, or?
We're trying to work that out because we were either we're not moving far away. That's for
you haven't
sure.
You haven't found the place yet.
No, that's what's been taking up part of our new year is looking for viewing houses. But our lease on this place is up in 8 weeks, I think it is. So we decided, right, this is when we move. Because when we move, that's when we decide which schools Ivy goes to. She's 2.5 years old and we have to think about schools already. It's ridiculous. But yeah, talking of Ivy, it's been a really fun couple of weeks spending a lot of time with my daughter. She's become obsessed with guitar. It's been brilliant. She calls it pitar, and she marches into this room, and she just points at, because I've got 4 guitars behind me, and she goes that one, and makes me grab a guitar and start playing it. And I've started giving her one of the cheaper guitars to bash away on.
That's epic.
She loves it, yeah. So, and she's more interested in the guitar picks because of their colours than anything else. So at first, at first I only had these orange ones, which are the Dunlop regular orange. Then I got purple. She loves purple. And then completely separately, I've just had these in from America. These are green from Diodario. These are custom printed. I don't know if anyone can read that, because if I put it near the camera, it does. It says Hop Pole Studios. So I got a whole load of custom branded picks from Diodario, which is very cool. And they're really, really pointy on the end, which gives me a proper zing when I'm playing. So yeah, I'm well happy with them.
Awesome.
Yeah. So yeah, I get to have signature picks, and I'm thinking of doing a small run of some sort of merch this year. So I'm probably going to throw a couple of Hot Pole Studios picks in with any merch that we sell.
Yeah, we've been talking about maybe doing some t-shirts and stuff for a while, haven't we?
We have. It's slowly, softly, but it's all part of the plan. Start small, but yeah. One plan that I definitely have that I'm going to do probably in the next few months is mugs. I've got some very fun ideas for like a mug print. So I'll throw a couple of these in with every mug. Yes, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Yeah, Marty says web shop. But yeah, everything's happening recently. I got a message from Derek at Rev Amps. What time is it? 20 past 8. At 10 to 8, I got a message from from Derek saying, all right, what size chest are you? Which is a very strange question to ask a person. But there was context. And what's your address? And of course, so I give him all my details. They're sending me one of their Rev hockey jerseys.
Nice.
Along with the Rev Generator Mark III 120, which ships tomorrow. And I'm so excited.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Second Christmas.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And it's going to be wine red colour. If anyone's been watching the Instagram, I just got my 5150 back in wine red colour from Zilla.
Nice.
Turns out it took them ages to get my 5150 back to me because they've been using it in a speaker shootout comparison. Oh, you cheeky. I mean, I don't care. They're my friends. And their series is not really going to do anything negative to the video that I'm planning, which I've been talking about on the stream. They will probably quite happily live side by side as different things. And that's cool. I've got some of the playthrough videos together now for that Celestian video that I've been telling everyone about. I think Glenn Frick is going to send me his video tomorrow. I keep badgering John Brown, but then, I know John, I'll just keep poking him. And I'm still waiting on Jamie Humphreys, but now it's New Year, I can poke him. But I've got videos from Henning Pauly, Ross Campbell, the Bulletproof guitarist, and Jack Gardner are all in the bag. I already have them done. So, yes, indeed. Al says, hope it's not coming via UPS. Now, I've got to say, English UPS are really good, actually, most of the time, except for when they have a monumental mess up.
Yeah, and couriers are like that. We've had really good experience with DPD recently. Like you've had stuff picked up from here, from them, and had stuff dropped off.
Yeah.
But the day before Christmas Eve, we had a collection planned so that Ash could send presents to her family that she spent like 2 or 3 days hand making.
Right.
And long story short, they turned up 3 times apparently at the door. Once just put a card through the door, didn't even ring the doorbell. The other time just took a photo of the door from the road. And the third time didn't even bother coming. So that they didn't get the Christmas presents in time for Christmas.
Great.
Yeah. Some really weird stuff. Like when couriers are paid per delivery, I think it kind of ruins everything, doesn't it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I mean, I've found that certain delivery companies are on average better than others, and that's all you can hope for. But yeah, UPS are one of the least bad in England. That's for sure.
Yeah, I've never had any problems with them, to be honest.
They managed to lose a parcel of mine that was the size of 4 small dogs. Big parcel for a month. But then we found it in a pile. But other than that, they've been all right with me, I think. But yes, I'm very much looking forward to that, although it could be a week or 2 for that to get here because it's flying all the way from Canada. I hope they don't put it on a boat. I actually said to them, I will pay more money if I have to for air freight because of everything that's going on. Things are taking so long by boat that it's absolutely crazy. So, yeah, actually, seeing as though we're talking about the Audient stuff, I will make that the first news article. Let's talk about the news.
The
news. So, yes. Good show indeed. The ID4 and 14, you can just about see the 14 tucked up there. And there's also this Evo recording bundle that's a thing now. So if you want the Evo, but you don't know what you want, you get nice headphones and a nice microphone and everything in this bundle. So
are those headphones any good?
Are the what any good?
The headphones any good?
I honestly don't know. They are starter stuff. But I mean, as far as starter stuff goes, they're probably fine. Yes. News. That reminds me, we're halfway through the news and we didn't do the intro. Roll the intro. There we go. That's the intro rolled. Are you happy now, everybody? So yeah, the Evo 4, which is a very handy, capable little unit. You've got the Evo 4, haven't you?
Yes, it's. You can't quite see. It's like there on that cabinet up there.
Ah, ready and waiting for whenever it's needed.
Yeah, because I replaced the Go XLR with it, didn't I?
Yeah, because your needs were very specific. That was what you needed. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, gain wise, it's definitely a bit better than this. I think the gain stage is better, but for the day to day of what I need, this is better with buttons. If I need to record something cleaner, I would definitely recommend it for the price point. Definitely.
Good stuff. But yeah, that's a package. But the main stars of the show today were the new. Let's just click on it. There we go. That does it. Yeah, the new ID4 and ID14. So yes, they're slightly more expensive than the Mark 1 versions, but they are a lot higher quality, and I talked about them in depth in a video that's on the channel from earlier today. And now all the Americans are waking up, they're all watching it, and it's easily the most popular video that we've done in the last month, so that's great. Everybody's interested, which is good. They've added all the cool little features, like the bigger ID14 now has the funky little dual headphone output thing, right? Which is one of my favorite features of the ID4. It's got a big and a little headphone output, so if you've not got an adapter, or your headphones only do one of them, you're not caught short. I like that. So just one of those little things that's so simple, but why is nobody else doing it? And yeah, it's got an optical input. It's got more outputs than the previous one, and there's no 12-volt barrel jack anymore. It's all powered via USB-C now. They decided to make the leap because USB-C and USB 3 can provide more power than the older standards. So they went, right, screw it, let's just draw all the power from that. Which means now you can power this straight off something like a MacBook Air or whatever you've got, and you don't need external power, which means you can work remotely with it. Very useful. So yeah, it's got the DI, which is really clean. And yeah, I did the SM7B test, I call it, where you absolutely crank the gain up, listen for hissing, talk through one of the hardest microphones to get decent level from. And yeah, absolutely. So they are very good, and I mean that's the news for that particular thing, because yeah, the converters are better, the preamps better, it sounds really good. Yeah, it's a little bit more money, and they're not available yet because Brexit and COVID and everything. They are apparently stuck on the shipping containers for a little while. My guess is a couple of weeks or something like that, but Audient don't want to commit to a date until the boat's in and the gear's in the warehouse, which I think is very understandable. Because depending on factors outside of their control, it could be tomorrow, it could be a few weeks away, and they don't want to, they don't want to overpromise. So yeah, as soon as I know from Audient when those are available, I'll let everybody know.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. So someone in chat saying hopefully it's not USB-C to C. That's not how this works. USB-C is just a connector. It can be USB-C to anything. It comes with a USB-C to C cable in the box. I think they're supposed to come with a USB-C to A cable in the box as well, which is what I tend to use. I'm actually using a cable that I swiped off my Arturia audio fuse with it, which is USB-C to A, and that works perfectly well. It's just a connector shape. That's all it is. People seem to think USB-C has some sort of special properties. It doesn't.
I think it's maybe starting to come a little bit from people using Macs, in that they have one power on the MacBook, like the one that Ash has, on either side. There's one powered port and one non-powered port.
Oh, right.
That you can't draw power from them. Right. And as a result, like if you put Like she's got one of those little adapters that you can plug into the side of it, designed for it. It's got 2 USB-Cs in. You plug it in, and on that, the only one that has USB is powered USB-C is the first port, and the USB-A ports can't support power, which I didn't really even know was a thing. I thought all USB could pull 2 amps at least, but
right,
it says on
no,
it.
USB 3 standard can pull 0.9 amps. That's all you get. Anything above that is outside of spec, and a lot of computers do it, but it's not specified. It's not standard.
Right. So when I've got a power pack by my bed that has the 2 amp and the 5 amp USBs, they are specifically power based ones.
Yes, they're either outside of spec, or there's a thing now called USB PD, USB power delivery.
Yeah, 2 of them are. Yeah, 2 of them are.
Yeah, so USB PD is a new separate standard where it kind of negotiates its own voltage and stuff like that, which is very clever, but is not to do with USB on computers, which is more data oriented and much lower power.
Well, talking about USB-C, today I received my new iPhone 12, which has no plug in the box.
Ah.
So I was due an upgrade, so it cost me 30 quid. So I was like, meh, might as well for 30 quid have a new phone. But yeah, it's the first time the box comes. It's this thick. It's just got a phone in it and one USB, one lightning to USB-C cable.
Ah, right, okay. No charger, no headphones?
No headphones. Nope.
No dongle?
Nope.
Just get screwed, get stuffed.
Yeah.
Okay. Everyone in chat, I don't think you understand that it uses a USB 3 port for its expanded power draw because USB 2 can only supply 500 milliamps. USB 3 can supply 900 milliamps, which is what the interfaces need to run reliably. They can't use a USB 2 slot because that would be out of power spec, which means they'd be back to using the power barrel jack, which means they'd be back to the Mark 1 version. So it's the march of progress. Plus, most computers now have almost exclusively USB 3 ports anyway. It's largely a non-issue.
For new machines, yeah.
Yeah, well, almost any machine of the last 10 years, I've got to be honest. I've got old machines that have got USB 3 and USB 2. And
yeah, they'll have a mix of the two, yeah.
Yeah, and you probably don't have enough USB 3 only devices on a machine that old to make it so you must run out of USB 3 ports, generally speaking. There are exceptions, but we're on the cusp of that not being a thing. So yeah, Audient have made a strategic decision here to go with the extra power delivery. I mean, if it's really an issue, you can get those USB kind of twin cable things, if you've seen them, that can take the power out of 2 ports. You see those on 2.5-inch hard drives where they've got like 2 USB things hanging off one end. Where the whole point, the point of that is that USB 2 drives can only deliver 0.5 amp of power out of a traditional USB 2 port. So if you're really struggling for power, you can plug them both into 2 ports.
And my Corsair keyboard has 2 USB ports. Interestingly. I don't know why that is, though.
Okay. Right, anyway, moving on. Let's have a look at the next.
It has a USB port in it, that's why.
What doesn't?
It has a USB port in it, that's why. Which I've never realised in the keyboard.
Cool. Mine probably doesn't, because mine's a 10 quid thing from Aldi. Which I was like, this'll do fine. And then I tried, it's from Amazon, not Aldi. And I tried typing on it last night. I typed out all the subtitles for the new Audient video. And after an hour and a half of struggling, like typing through mud, I was like, yeah, this is why you get a good keyboard. Oh yeah, I remember now. So we've been looking at a beardy hipster for a little while. Let's move on to the big news article.
Big news?
Yeah.
Big news?
Big news, yes. Gibson have bought Mesa Boogie.
Ooh.
Yes. And we were joking that, well, what's next? Behringer buys Gibson. But yeah, this is an interesting thing because, yeah, Mesa in recent years have been getting a bad reputation for their social media presence and their issues around that, where if you say something they don't like, rather than disagree with your point or let you be, they just block everybody. And Gibson's shady business practices have been well documented.
On this show?
On this show, if not others. Yes. It's also well known that since Gibson's new CEO has come in, a lot of that is being turned around. Gibson did file for bankruptcy a couple of years ago. That seems to be behind them now if they have the capital to be buying companies like Mesa. But yeah, this is an interesting turn up for the books. I heard about this probably 24 hours before the major news sites reported on it, which is weird, but I'm getting used to the idea of knowing people who know things. Yes. But it makes a lot of sense to me in a way, because Randall Smith, the owner of Mesa, has always been the owner of Mesa. It's not a company that's changed hands. And he's 75. And I figured that he's just got to a point where he doesn't want to have to deal with the business side and board meetings and all that kind of stuff anymore. And it's just like, right. Okay, so apparently this is a lot like, from what I've heard, this is a lot like the kind of Disney Pixar or Disney LucasArts relationship, where it's a bit of a hands-off thing, where Gibson are going to own them and they'll have access to their distribution network, and that will help the company prosper. But at the same time, from what I've heard, Gibson aren't going to be getting too involved in the day-to-day running of Mesa, which is great. But there's a lot to talk about here because of Gibson's history of buying companies, essentially stripping them of assets, then canning them or making them a shell of their former selves. Yeah. They did it to KRK. KRK have the worst reputation in monitors now. There was a time when I had just started university studying music production where KRKs were still the thing. You really, if you had the speakers with the yellow cones, you were somebody. Very quickly after Gibson took over, they made MDF and plastic crap. And they still had the yellow speakers, and all the dance guys bought them because they look cool. And everybody else just went, eesh. So, I mean, it's prediction time. And I think this is going to be a 2-stage operation. I could be completely off the mark, but this is my prediction. My thoughts are, stage 1, this is going to be great. Stage 1, this means that every major company that is a Gibson dealer will have easy access to stock Mesa equipment and sell it to more people, get better deals, all that kind of stuff. Although better deals, that's questionable because it's Gibson. You don't really get discounts, apparently. And that means that Randall Smith, man in the middle here, doesn't have to stress about the business stuff and can make some new cool lamp designs. At some point in the relatively near future, let's say, ballpark 4 or 5 years, Randall Smith's 75. He's either going to completely retire or something else, but he's not going to be running the company forever. That much is, he's 75. He's not going to be running the company forever. And at that point, somebody else is going to run the company, and the question will come up of who. And seeing as though they will be a company owned by Gibson, what are the chances that a Gibson exec will then step in? Then things potentially go downhill. Uh, then we can end up with the R&D team being led down the garden path by a company that want maximum profits. We can end up with, because Gibson have Epiphone as well. They have a market for lower end guitars. Why not have lower end amps? This in turn could potentially, if they make lower end amps, that could tarnish the reputation of Mesa. That could make them not nearly as well thought of over time as these cheaper amps propagate. And it'll make Gibson plenty of money, I'm sure. And the name Mesa will spread wider, but the quality average, I think, will then suffer. What do you think?
I think I wouldn't want to be being bought by Gibson right now.
Yes. Yeah.
I don't think this feels good to anyone.
No, the reaction publicly has been very negative overall.
Yeah. I just don't feel it. Doesn't feel good. That's all I can say to it. Like, I get what you're saying, and I feel like it can only really get worse with both companies in this situation, unless there's just because there's so much bad blood for Gibson really at the moment.
Yeah. I mean, Mesa aren't even coming out smelling of roses because of the issues they've had with their reputation for being essentially dictators on their own social media. And honestly,
well, maybe it's a great fit.
Maybe that's what a few people have said is, yeah, you deserve each other. But I mean, what's it? The new amp, the Mesa Badlander, I think sounds great. But in the last 10 years, I mean, some people like the Triple Crown, but they've not really pushed any boundaries. Not that people have been interested in anyway. The guitar amp market is shrinking. Apparently all the sales from all the tube amp companies are telling that story. And Mesa are not changing with the times. And so maybe, they will have to change with the times. And when they do, being Gibson owned could be the sticking point. We could end up with a Star Wars Episode 9 of amps. Talking about Disney owning LucasArts. Now Gibson, because Gibson don't own as many companies as they did, but could this be the start of a new cycle of buying companies and doing the wrong things with them and then selling them off for a massive loss?
Let's see Behringer buys both of them and then remakes all of their own products cheaper.
Yes, that would be absolutely hilarious. Behringer start making the baser Nectifier. Oh wait, no, they make the Bugera Tri-Rec. They do make a rectifier. They make a Behringer triple rectifier already. Hilarious. Yeah. But yeah, the other thing. Go on.
I was going to say, just quickly, while you're talking about Pixar and whatnot, and Disney, have you seen Soul?
No, I've not.
I really recommend it. Obviously, that is related. Obviously, it's a film about music. It's about a jazz musician.
Right.
The music in it quite important in a lot of ways. Okay. Fantastic film. Really fantastic film. Yeah.
I was a little hesitant. I saw some of the adverts and it looked like this could be great or it could absolutely destroy my faith in Pixar. I'm not sure if I should...
Well, it's the director that did Inside Out, Up, and Monsters, Inc. So...
okay.
Like 3 fairly solid Pixar films there. And it's just really unique. Unique.
I was lukewarm on Inside Out. I like the other 2 very much.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's fair. But this is a really nice, unique story. And the music's good in it as well, I thought.
I'll check that out. Brush up on my jazz. But yeah, this was the official Gibson plus Mesa Boogie. They did a big social media announcement. So yeah, it is official as well. And yeah, this picture, the guy on the right is JC, the CEO of Gibson. So yeah, it's really happening. So just thought I'd mention that at the end before moving on to a very similar story. Korg have bought Aguilar. So another major musical company have just bought an amp company. Bizarre. So Korg are another major brand umbrella. They already own Vox. That much I know. They probably own a lot more as well. Korg brands. I'm just gonna have a quick look. Korg USA brands. Who do you own?
Oh, while you're looking for that,
Black
can you
Star,
see on
Spectre.
screen? There's an advert for Toman. If you like
there
using
is.
Toman, there are links below.
There are
You
indeed.
links.
Yes,
And buy
Tom and
anything
are
in
our
14
friends.
days. Stream.
That's probably worth talking about, not as a news article, but as a thing that since the whole Brexit thing has now come into effect, everything on Toman looks cheaper.
All right.
Yes, everything looks like it's got 20% off. Does the number 20% sound familiar? To someone from the UK.
Yeah. But do we not have to pay VAT?
We do. That's it. There you go. So they've just changed it now because of the way that everything's structured, so that UK prices are shown excluding VAT.
Right.
Because then I think they can more clearly break down the if we have to pay any import fees or anything like that, because that could be a thing now. That's then properly documented, and you understand it. It's getting UK people used to the idea that we have to pay VAT separately. But yeah, okay. So Korg own Dark Glass. I didn't know that. Okay, that's or maybe they're just distributors for that, because that I would not have heard about that. But yeah, Black Star, Vox, Spectre, Tanglewood. So Korg know what they're doing with amps, having Vox and Black Star, and also apparently Dark Glass, which is news to me. But there you go. So yeah, now they have Aguilar, which is one of the coolest bass amp companies in the world. I would love to have a top of the range Aguilar bass amp and cab, but they are so expensive. I mean, rightly so. The top end stuff's all handmade, and it sounds like you're breaking walls down. But yeah, I just thought it was really interesting that this was a news article, very, very similar timing. Yeah, Korg are like, yeah, that company will have you. So yeah, onto a slightly sadder news article. Alexi Leho from Children of Bodom has unfortunately passed away.
Sad.
Yeah, I was never really a Children of Bodom fan. I never really got it. I didn't get into Scandinavian metal until much later. But yeah, I know some people who really, really got the whole Children of Bodom thing. And yeah, apparently apparently really hasn't been well for a while. And so yeah, the news has come recently. He's Australian. I thought he was Finnish. That's confusing. I thought he lived in Australia. I'm confused about that, but yeah, I think maybe he just lives in Australia. I could have just made that up. I'm sure I've seen that somewhere, but could just be going insane. But yeah, he unfortunately is no longer with us. Apparently it was a little while ago, but they waited to make the announcement, which is completely fair and within the family's right. But yeah,
sad to hear.
Shame. Rest in peace. So yeah, let's.
Don't really know enough about him to make any other comments, to be honest. Unfortunately.
No, me neither. Unfortunately, even though I was always into metal, I wasn't really into the Scandinavian stuff, like I said, until much later. So there you go. Talking of heavy, fast metal, Jeff Loomis from Arch Enemy and other projects, an absolutely insane guitarist, has a new Toneforge amp with my friends at Toneforge. Toneforge is one of the Joey Sturgis companies, for anyone who didn't know. And yeah, Jeff Loomis is an incredible guitarist. And this is a 3 amp set. So you've got clean. Who needs clean? Rhythm and lead. So it's got all the chuggy chugs. Oh yeah, there we go. It's got Joey Sturgis's little icon in there. So if you want the cab that matches the amp, you just put Joey's face in and off you go. Yeah, it's got everything you need in there, and it's currently on introductory pricing of $59. So yeah, if you want it, get it. Now, talking about Gibson again, Rick Beato, well-known YouTube musician for Granddads, is to get his own Gibson signature model. Rick's a very talented musician. He very much appeals to the old school. He makes videos about like why the Eagles are great and people like that. He also does videos about Carnival and Tool and Dream Theater and people like that. So he's not just old school, but that's very much his demographic. He appeals to the older musician or the older music enthusiast. And all the more power to him. He's incredibly successful at it. And yeah, he is actually a very good guitarist as well. He was a session producer and a session player for many years. And so, yeah, during the New Year's Eve live stream that he did, he dropped the bombshell that he has a new Gibson signature model in the works, which is, yeah, it's based on a double cut special, which is, you know, the old Les Paul Jr. And yeah, like the article says, it's quite accurate. It's a pretty big deal for a guitarist who is not associated with any band or major recordings. So that's what's really interesting, that is because he's a producer and a YouTube name, it's really interesting that Gibson have decided to jump on him as a brand without being the traditional touring artist. I found that really interesting. It just kind of goes to show how even companies like Gibson that are a little bit rooted in tradition are starting to catch on to the fact that, you know, it's not just about touring musicians, and hell, right now nothing's about touring, but there's a very good chance that an artist, a personality like Rick Beato is probably going to end up selling more Gibsons than a lot of bands would. Marty says, does the guitar come with a mug in the Beato book 5.0? You know what? That sounds really silly, but maybe it will. So the Beato book is Rick's thing. He sells a book that's full of like music theory and history and all sorts of stuff. That's the world according to Rick Beato, and that's how he makes money on his channel. Which all more power to him, you know. But yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe he will have his book go out with every Gibson signature model. Who knows? Yeah. So yeah, that'll be a thing. Yeah, apparently positive and negative comments about this impending guitar. I don't see why there would be anything negative really about this. It's a signature guitar for someone who is a Gibson enthusiast and well-known one at that. If you don't like it, don't buy it. That's the old thing, isn't it?
True.
Okay.
That is fair and true.
Yes. So, moving on. Plugin Alliance, The Oven. So, there's a mastering engineer called Mayor Applebaum, and he's very well-known in the mastering world. He's incredibly popular. And he's had a custom-made box from a company called Hendy Amps called The Oven. And apparently it's a saturation unit that just makes masters sound thicker, fuller, more in your face. And Plugin Alliance, whose bundle I've been using now for the past few months and I'm very impressed with, are making a plugin version of it. And yeah, it looks like it's a bit of a secret weapon that it's kind of solid state and tube all in the same box. Apparently the real ones sell for $6,500 US.
Ooh. That is money.
Yes. So yeah, but it's got low, mid, top. I don't know if they're EQs or extra saturation. It's got separate saturation controls.
How much did you say the actual thing was? The actual plugin?
The plugin, there's no price given yet. Apparently this is coming this year, but the actual thing is $6,500. And I do know that most plugins like this that Plugin Alliance do, they get included with their everything monthly bundle and their Mix Master monthly bundle, which are $25 and $15 respectively.
All right.
So
That's value.
Yes, value. I use the Mix Master bundle, so $15 a month because I don't need their virtual amps, that kind of stuff. I've got more than enough of that going on.
Yeah.
And some of their plugins recently have been making my mixes sound so good that I'm very impressed. So I'm going to be using their stuff a lot more. And yeah, so buying their stuff separately can be expensive, but in my humble opinion as a mix engineer, if you're still buying plugins separately, you're a fool to yourself. Monthly bundles, if you use more than one plugin out of that bundle, you are probably going to save yourself tons of money over a period of time, and you don't have to pay an upfront hit. So yeah, that's how it goes. Yeah, so
good stuff.
Yeah, looking forward to that because they already do a thing called the Black Box HG2, which has been on my masters recently and makes everything sound incredible. So it's very rare that I'll use a plugin that just kind of magically makes things sound better because I'm very skeptical of that. But anything that's got subtle like multi-band valve saturation is something you can't really replicate otherwise. And so yeah, it's a really good thing. So
we do have a Discord, Ebony. It should be somewhere below in the comments.
Yeah. I'd really rather you weren't posting Rick Beato's material on my Discord. I don't want to get in trouble with Rick. And yeah, you say I think you think I should maybe learn more about Rick. I know about Rick. I know Rick.
No, I think that's. I was reading that. I think it's a mistranslation. I don't think English is his first language. I think that's meant to be. I know that was meant to come across quite as it did because I thought that first as well.
Fair. I've been trying to simplify things for the podcast as well. I know Rick's stuff better than I'm describing on the podcast. Yeah, I am actually quite a fan of Rick's, even though I say like his demographic is older. My favorite albums are from 1972. I'm an odd one out, so yeah, I'm quite a fan of Rick's stuff, but he has his audience and he does what he does very well. I'm not afraid that posting the table contents would be troublesome. I know that that's giving out copyrighted material, and you can't do that on my Discord. Sorry, buddy.
We're all here for big, wholesome fun together. Like,
absolutely.
No aggro, please.
I mean, like, talk about Rick all you like, because he is great. Talk about him to your heart's content. Just make sure you're not posting somebody else's copyrighted work, please. I don't know if he'd be upset, but I'm not going to run that risk. So, yeah, I mean, if you are that enthused about it, tell people about it and then they'll go and buy his book. I'm sure they will. Hey. So, yeah, I know people like this Joe in chat who's in the Rick fan club. I mean, yeah, he does what he does well.
Indeed. So what's next?
Yes, what's next is another set of interfaces that have just been announced, and this is on the way cheaper end of the spectrum. So, did you ever use Pro Tools M powered back in the day?
No, but I'm aware of it. Yeah.
Right. So it was like the worst version of Pro Tools because you had to use the M Audio really bad audio interfaces.
I remember.
Yeah, and so M Audio have kind of kept that tradition going with their new M track, and they've got the solo and duo, which are €49 and €69 respectively. And so I'm not expecting very much out of these, but if you absolutely positively gotta have the cheapest thing you can get, well, there's Behringer. And then like €5 above that is M Audio. And yeah, this is what you get when you scrape the barrel, guys. Not gonna lie, not gonna sugarcoat it. This is what happens. I mean, this has got one input and a DI. This is obviously copying the format of the Audient ID4. And yeah, I mean, imitation's the sincerest form of flattery, I suppose. You've got main outs that are on RCA. Who uses RCA on balanced outs in this day and age? I mean, that looks like it's going to somebody's hi-fi. And yeah, the old school USB, which is a solid connection until you break them.
The Evo. Oh no, it's got two, hasn't it? It has them, and it also has balanced outs as well.
The Evo doesn't have RCAs. The Evo has. I've got the Evo 8 right here. That's got combis on the input and balanced TRS jacks on the output. Pretty sure the Evo 4's balanced TRS output. Balancing is important.
Maybe, yeah. It's in the box. So yeah, I trust you. I trust you.
It's this but smaller. It's one of them but shrunk down a little bit.
You're right. I swear it had some RC outputs. Maybe I'm just making it up.
You
Most
probably
likely
got them on something. I mean, are they on the Go XLR?
No.
Oh. They're definitely on the M audio file 2496
that we've got. XLR. The Go XLR only has 3.5 mil out.
Oh, fantastic. Keep it classy, TC.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, this is thing about a €49 or $49, $50, $60 interface is that you've got to think about how much it cost them to make. You got to work your prices backwards. So the first thing you do in the UK is you take off 20% for tax. It's got to be similar in other countries. There's got to be a percentage that you take off for tax before anything. So let's say that's $40 now that it costs before tax, roughly. Then you take off the company's profits, so $30. Then you take off the amount of money that it cost them to send it to distributors and warehouses, so $20. Then you divide it by 4 for the actual component cost. This can't have cost them more than $5 to make. For one of these. Oh, there we go. Hello. So yeah, by doing a quick napkin maths, this can't have cost them much more than $5 to make. Do you really want to trust your album production or your podcast to a $5 piece of equipment?
No.
I mean, this is the whole thing. It's the same. It's the thing that people talk about with like a bottle of wine. The difference between a $5 bottle of wine and a $10 bottle of wine is about $4 worth of wine.
I disagree. It's all the same swill.
Yes.
I'll drink it all.
I mean, there is that as well. But when it comes to electronics, especially, you can see where the money goes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, well, the argument only does go so far because once you go up above a certain price point, then you're paying for prestige, you're paying for the name, you're paying for extra stuff that, whatever. Beyond a certain amount of money that you're paying for something, you're paying for stuff that is imaginary. But especially in this highly competitive market for things like audio interfaces, there are only so many companies that can get away with charging crazy money. Most companies are genuinely competitive, I think, in the component choices. And yeah, they have to make these choices of like the Audient interfaces, like the ID14. This is a roughly $200 interface. I'm going to guess in components, and I don't want to speak out of turn too much, but I'm going to guess in components, that's probably $40 worth of components. They then have to build it. They then have to ship it from wherever it's made. They then have to send it out to the company to sell. They then have to add tax. They then also have to, so that's why things cost what they cost. And I completely understand that. And I get that. That, things cost what they cost for lots of reasons. But if we're just comparing component to component, if this, let's say that was a complete guess of, I don't know, $40 worth of components, although I bet you anything, I couldn't get all those separate components and build it myself. So that's the other thing. I don't have the $1 million of machinery to build the thing. But yeah, comparing $5 worth of component to $40 worth of component, that's 8 times the worth of actual components, and therefore you're probably going to pick up on some perceivable quality difference.
I think so. You'd hope so.
You'd hope so. Al says the $4 wine will taste like $10 wine in a hot pull mug. Yes, it would. Cheers.
I had a lot of $4 wine over Christmas from Morrison's, and it was fantastic. You can get it same day delivered on Amazon. It's incredible.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I've
same day wine is amazing.
I've had no wine over Christmas. I've been drinking spirits. Oh, wow. Which is so different for me. I used to be a beer drinker by a long way, but I do like a cheeky cocktail. Plus, it's so strong I have to drink very slowly. So, yes, that's the other thing. Yeah, so that's a thing. And yeah, super cheap. So, moving on.
M-Audio's not.
They're not really what they once were. I think they're owned by Avid at this point. So they, they make the bare minimum. On the other side is the AMS Neve 1073 OPX worth the money.
I want that.
Worth the money is a very hard thing to qualify because they are looking at the OPX. They're the one that Glenn Fricker has. They are £3,500, but they are 8 channels of Neve input, which is arguably, if you like the Neve sound, and I do, the best sound quality you're going to get on the way in. Unless you're looking for an alternative sound, an alternative flavor, you are not going to get better than that. Which means if that's worth it to you, that's absolutely worth the money. If you just need clean, clear preamps and you don't have a crazy budget, then no, of course it's not worth the money. But yeah, I would happily accept at that level that I'd probably be paying £1,000 or £2,000 of that money to Neve just because it's the Neve name and it's got the prestige and that kind of thing. Doesn't make it right or wrong. I would just accept that that's part of a prestige product. So yeah. Yeah, so hope that answers that question. Prism Lyra. Yeah. Well, that's a whole different conversation, but yes, I mean, how is the cheap M-Audio stuff versus Behringer? No idea. Probably similar.
Again, though, it kind of depends on what Behringer stuff. Like we said, it's a lot.
Yeah.
Like, Behringer is a sliding scale of quality these days.
Yes, it very much is. The Behringer UM2, which is the worst interface that Behringer make, is probably on par with those M-Audio solos there in terms of being absolutely shocking. I've got a UM2 studio somewhere. I tried it as an experiment for something. I'll never touch it again unless I'm making a point.
Whereas, is that the fake cheap one?
Yeah, the really cheap.
The one with actual tube in it. Yeah.
With what?
Yeah. It's got a real tube that's sticking out of it.
No, that's a preamp. I've had that for 15 years. No, that's okay. It's not amazing. It's not stellar. It doesn't set the world on fire. But no, there's an actual little interface that I've got from Behringer that's about that big. It's a 1-channel in and 2-channel out interface, and it has the worst mic preamp I've ever heard. It sucks out loud. Which is why I know that the M-Audio stuff can't be good at that price point, because it's a very similar price point. And to hit that price point, you need to shove the cheapest plastic and worst components in there just to make it possible to build it without making a loss. So yeah, it's going to be bad. However, the top of the range Behringer one, the 8-channel one, they've got really low noise preamps and they're actually okay. The 22 and the 202 HD, the HD Behringer models, they're okay. And again, I say okay with a tempered expectation. They are okay. I wouldn't be shouting from the rooftops about them, but I've actually got a 404. I have the 404 HD on our streaming setup right now, and it works perfectly fine. So yeah, perfectly fine. It's got clean clear preamps, and for streaming, that's all I need on the microphone that is just for me to stream with. The actual mix PC doesn't ever see it. So yeah, I don't have to worry in my situation about crystal clear, the best audio for that, because that goes out live, never gets mixed, never does anything with a client's work. But yeah, I certainly wouldn't trust them with a client's work in a professional setting. Put it that way.
Talk about the guitar. Talk about the guitar.
Yes.
Tell me where to buy it. Tell me where to buy it.
So unfortunately, this seems to be a scam.
Oh, just saw that line.
Yeah. Now, I know that there is a Sega Mega Drive guitar that you can actually put a cartridge in and play. I've seen them. But it looks like there's no dice at the moment with these. Because it's a company called Modoro. So this is a real guitar. It's called the Alpha Wave Tracker. Oh no, sorry,
right.
that was a separate. Sorry, no, I'm getting confused. That was a separate thing. But it's this. It's one of these companies that like get this guitar at 80% off, and you click it and you send the money and you never see a thing. But yeah, these guitars do exist. I've seen them. But yeah, I definitely saw the Mega Drive one years ago because it was actually a Brazilian guy who had a little band called Mega Driver. And yeah, it was kind of cool. It was seriously awful guitar sound of but apparently in Brazil they like that. Or at least they did in the late 90s. So cool, I guess. But yeah,
because that's the Sepultura Soulfly sound, right?
Kind of was, yeah. But yeah, just beware, everybody. If you see it, something that's too good to be true. Yeah, so Rob Scallon did actually play a real NES with a workable guitar on it. I remember watching that video and it was very cool. It was a custom-made job. And the coolest thing is there's a secondary video on his second channel of his friend playing the NES whilst he plays it as a guitar. That was just silly, but also very cool. But yeah, if you see a deal that's too good to be true on something like this, guess what? It's too good to be true. It's a scam. Don't buy it. Yeah. Living above the 12th in chat says he really likes the M Audio 192/6 Air. I think that's a much higher 192/6. That's a much higher budget interface. It is. So the M Audio 1962 is £130, which is more than double the price of the other M Audio interfaces we just saw, which means that the components in it can be at least twice as good. So yeah, I still wouldn't get it, but that's because the company makes these decisions that make me wary of them. And when a company makes me wary of them, I tend to avoid them in general because you never know if they've got dodgy business practices in one area. You know. But that's me. I tend to end up loyal to companies whose ethos across the board is quality and consistency. If a company starts making the cheapest of the cheap, I do tend to kind of go, well, if they're willing to cut corners here, where else are they willing to cut corners? So yeah, I'm not loyal to one particular company. I like quite a lot of different companies. But the ones I don't like are generally the ones where you can look at some of the stuff and go, how have you got the morals to sell something this bad to people? So,
fair.
Yeah, there you go. So, moving on to Behringer Corner.
Behringer Corner.
Behringer Corner. Yeah.
Down
so
at the bottom of the garden. Oh, no, wait.
Poddington Peas, nice. That's a callback. So yeah, this was a photo that Behringer put up at New Year for their Happy New Year, and it looks like some of their other keyboards until you look a little closer. This is a clone of a keyboard called a Cobol. So let's have a look at what that is. It's a 1978 monophonic synth made in France, often thought of as the French Mini Moog, apparently.
The Mini Moog?
French Moog, Le Mini Moog.
Le Moog.
So, yeah, it's got a few things that the Moogs didn't. Built-in sequencer, memory slots, one less oscillator, which is kind of important, but it's got sync, which the Mini Moog does not have, or did not have back then with the Model D. So, yeah, there's no pricing or delivery information at the moment, but that's going to come. So then, yeah, Behringer's inevitable march towards more keyboards is still progressing. This is news that they've not stopped. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more stuff. Apparently, Zach in chat is looking forward to seeing the Akai clone from Behringer called the Jam. So, yeah, there's a lot more coming out, although again, this is a company who I have very mixed feelings on, because they do make the cheapest of the cheap and they have some very aggressive business practices. I am very much on the fence about Behringer stuff. I do own a small amount of Behringer stuff, but I really have to go looking to find something. I have to look really, really hard to find something like TC Electronics third dimension. I think that's the only thing within reach that's Behringer in this room, actually. I've tried mostly to be generally not very Behringer-y. Although, having said that, a lot of the stuff I do have that's Behringer I've bought secondhand. I'm less bothered about buying things secondhand because it doesn't put more money in the pockets of shady business practices. The stuff's already out there, you may as well use it, you know. Like, I've got a secondhand Mesa. I've got a secondhand Gibson. In fact, most of the stuff that I have that I've gone out to buy myself is secondhand. That's just my ethos of why pay full price when you can wait for somebody to buy it, not like it, and 6 months later get it at a massive discount. Yes. We did have our first proper mixing desk was a Behringer, wasn't it? The Euro desk.
It's still upstairs.
Hissing like a snake.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, salute you, Behringer, for bringing us news every week. That was the news.
Good old Behringer.
Yes. So, I'm really looking forward to this Rev amp now. You've moved. There we go. There we go.
It's exciting times.
Very exciting times. There's a lot's happened in the last few weeks. Because of the new lockdown in the UK, I've not had a chance to get my new old Marshall, tweaked and fixed and safe yet, but that's coming up very soon. I've just agreed with Bagley Guitars, Dirk Bagley from Bagley Guitars, that I will be commissioning them at mates rates to make me an aluminium bass neck, like you can see in my Facebook profile picture, or you can see me playing at 42 Gear Street 2. But they're going to make something very special for me. Something, I think I've told you this, but I can't remember. Over Christmas, me and the patrons and the regulars on the Discord, we all had a Zoom hangout for an evening. And
I saw you.
Yep, we got very drunk. And I bought a bass body.
Oh, right. What? On the call?
Yeah. I mean, at one point, I actually got one of the guys on the call to take over my screen and click the options. So it's partly crowd decision on what I bought.
Nice.
So yeah, I've got a 5-string jazz bass body being made by Warmoth in the US, who make necks and bodies and that kind of thing. And nice. Yeah, it's a maple body with a maple top, which is going to sound bright, really bright, and I like that. And the really weird thing is it's a 5-string bass. It's going to have a tremolo, a whammy bar.
All right.
5-string bass with a whammy bar.
Wow.
So
I don't think I want to know how much that's going to cost, do I?
not as much as you think, because Warmoth make all sorts of weird and wonderful stuff.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm going to be making a video series on this to try and justify it a little bit.
Justify the cost.
Yeah. But this also gives me some scope to talk to companies about pickups, about tone electronics, about the bridge, because this is just the body that I've ordered, literally just the wood painted. Nothing else. It doesn't actually come with any of the other equipment, which means I can then look at different, like I say, different pickups and all that kind of stuff. And Dirk Bagley is going to make this 5-string neck that's a multi-scale, so it goes 34 to 35 inch scale. So it's not not much of a multi-scale. It's just a little bit longer on the really low end. So it's going to not flub out when I try and play a really low note. It's going to be very clear and dong rather than, because nobody likes a. But yeah, it's going to be a long project. It's probably going to take a year. So that's the other thing, is this is going to be an ongoing kind of recurring segment on the channel, I think. Cool. So, yes. It's something I've been thinking about for a while, and since I met Dirk at 42 Gear Street, Mr. Bagley from Bagley Guitars, we've been talking about me making an aluminium necked bass. And so, yeah, I've been talking to the guys on the Zoom call over Christmas, and we said, you know what, let's get this ball rolling. Let's go.
Nice.
So yeah, at some point over the next 10 weeks, that should get made at Warmoth, and then it's going to end up making its way here over the next million years because of shipping restrictions and all that kind of stuff.
I wasn't quite understanding at first. So it's literally just the body. So it's a project to build the whole guitar.
That's right.
Got you.
Yeah, so that's why it's not super expensive, because it is just...
Right, I was thinking having a guitar custom built in the States. I was like, that's got to be a lot of money. Right,
yeah, no. So it's just that part, because I couldn't think of any UK-based companies.
Yeah. I mean, buy what you want for the channel. It's all content in it. But yeah, no, that's a really cool idea.
But yeah, no, I couldn't justify silly amount. Sorry, what?
Yeah, but now I was saying, why do you need a custom bass? But I get this now. This sounds like a really great idea. I like it.
So that's and that means I can make videos about like what is multi-scale. Why would you have an aluminium neck? Talking about the woods that bodies are made from, and what pickups you would choose, and all that kind of good stuff. So yeah, I'm also planning. I'm planning at some point this year of making a video about. The idea, to tell everybody, is the basics of learning bass that don't involve actually playing.
Okay, yeah.
Because there are so many great teachers out there who actually teach you, here's a scale, here's an octave, all that kind of stuff. Great. I could do that, but there's very little point in it because it's been done a million times.
You're going to show them how long to have your guitar strap, what stance to stand in.
Still sounds silly, but yes. Things like how to have your bass set up right, what's the right playing, ergonomics, what's going to fight you when you first start, what's going to slow you down because you're doing it wrong. All the kind of things that I think people learn the wrong way most of the time, that you'll go like, oh, well, here's a scale, and then you've got this really badly set up banana of a bass with old strings, and you're squeezing it and you're fighting it, and you get blisters and you get cuts, and it doesn't sound very good, and it's discouraging.
Like changing your strings. I remember the first time I changed my strings on my first guitar was probably like 6 to 8 months after having it.
Yeah.
And like the amount of grime and crap that was on there. Like you could literally run. You remember like when you run a pick down the side of it, and like this
crap would fall off. Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then you play it with new strings on, and I was like, wow, it feels like another guitar. And then the first time I put I think it came with like 11s or 12s on like really heavy gauge strings.
Yeah.
And I put some like 9s on it, and I was like, wow, it felt so much different to me. And all that stuff you learn just by doing and experimenting, and you don't understand why it's different as well, and why you would have lighter strings or heavier strings.
Yeah, exactly. All that kind of stuff. But from the angle of a bass player is how I want to do that, because I think it's a largely ignored segment of the musical population that generally, if someone says like, you're not a very good guitarist. We need a bass player. Here's a bass. See you next week. It's like, yeah, great. But if you're serious about playing bass, it is not a big guitar with some strings missing. It's a whole different thing. And it should have a whole different approach. I mean, there is a lot of common ground. There is a lot of common ground, like you said, like fresh strings and all that kind of stuff. But coming at it from the angle of my 20 years of experience with what's held me back and what makes my life easier, and what I wish I had known when I started, aside from the actual musical side of things. Yeah, that I think is going to be invaluable. So, yeah, that's one of the big plans for the start of this year. Probably once the big Celestium video is in the bag.
That sounds good to me. Yeah, sounds good. Good stuff.
Teach Beato's circle of fifths with it. Careful, you. Al acoustic in chat. I know you. But yeah, that's exactly what I mean. There are people like Rick Beato who teach really good theory and all that kind of stuff, which there are a lot of people like that, like Scott from Scott's Bass Lessons. They've got there way before I have. And so I feel like that wouldn't be my strong suit. I would be starting again from scratch trying to teach that because everybody knows me for something else. But the tech side of things, who do we know that's really techie and knows all that kind of stuff? Bing! So, yeah, so many bass players that can't get good tone from a 20-watt amp. That's exactly the kind of thing that I'd want to talk about, like plugging into something and the landscape of bass tone in 2021. It's very different from when I started learning in 1990, whatever. Where I literally was given a copy bass, which was terrible, and a 50-watt practice amp that blew up within 3 months. You don't need any of that now. You don't need to upset people. You can get great tone in your bedroom for cheap, and you can be really happy with it. Yeah. And I can show you ways to take that tone out to a practice room, out to a show, and keep consistency and be happy all the way through without spending silly amounts of money and without having to do everything twice or 3 times. I bought 3 or 4 different whole amp setups over my learning curve. Not necessarily bigger and bigger, but realizing they weren't right for me. Would I mind doing videos on wacky bass sounds? I don't even know where to begin with that. I mean, I can do loads of wacky bass sounds, but I mean, I don't know why. Eric in chat. Hello, dude. Yes. We've got lots and lots of people. Yeah. Get a bass and Audient and Mammoth and go. Yeah. Well, yes. I mean, yeah, that kind of thing. No more fridge moving. Well, that's the thing. If you want a bass fridge, you can have one. But know what you're getting yourself in for. That's the kind of thing I want to talk about. Is that, like, you can do that if you're crazy. I mean, why wouldn't you? But here's why it sounds like it does. Here are the alternatives if you don't want to. That's the kind of thing that I want to talk about in this video. Another nonsense.
So he says like Muse, so I'm assuming he's like how to get weird and wonderful bass sort of sound.
like bass tones, right? Okay.
Sort of non-traditional sort of stuff, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I could always look at that kind of thing, but that's not
always looking for different ideas.
Yeah.
For content. It's as Adam says, there's lots of people on YouTube that do stuff really well already. One of the things that we try and focus on is the really in-depth technical look at technology, as well as the starter stuff. Like, it's literally a mix, it's one and the other, all the fun, wacky ways of doing things in between.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people doing already.
Pull this out from here if I can. One second.
Always open. Adam, one of the things we always used to do when we worked together in marketing is we had a lot of times where, there you go.
That's my bass rig right now at home. And that's got three outputs at the same time. So yeah, very music.
Clients would ask us to do pastiches of songs to go on marketing videos. Like, we want a song that sounds like Muse or something. Adam was always great at getting the right tones and the same tones of the popular bands, and then doing something that's legally different from a popular song that sounds just like it. So it's definitely possible, but it's whether people would really want to watch that. And other people do stuff like that.
Yeah, those are slightly more advanced videos as well. I want to start with the basic one for everybody who plays bass or has played bass for less than a year or two, let's say. Because that's the period where I really, really wish I had known more, which would have accelerated my learning. I learned pretty quick, I think, because I was obsessed. But, I had to discover lots of stuff on my own, and it took a lot of trying and failing and trying and failing. If I'd found the answers a lot quicker, I think I would have been happier.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, right, one last question from chat before we go. I want to use backing tracks live, but when I lower the buffer, I'm experiencing dropouts. What should I upgrade in my laptop? Well, firstly, the interface. Whatever interface you're using, dropouts and latency issues are to do with the interface far more than the computer itself. It's generally a USB issue. USB interfaces aren't great. Also, why have you got a low buffer if you're using backing tracks? That's the next question. Because you don't need it. If they're just playing, then they should be separate from what you're doing with the rest of your tone. If they're not separate, if you're using the laptop for something else as well, like a guitar tone or a bass tone, that's not really relevant to the backing tracks because they are not a heavy load on a computer. Playing backing tracks is the easiest thing in the world for computers. I mean, the other thing you could do is if you're using plugins to get a certain sound on the backing tracks, render it all down, flatten it.
No, he's saying he's using VSTs for his guitar and voice through his laptop.
Right. Well, in that case, it really is down to the interface. If low latency is the absolute essential thing for you, then do some research on the lowest latency and highest performance USB interface, because that's, like I say, far more important, because most of the dropouts you get are because the interface and its drivers can't talk quickly enough. It's not really relevant to how powerful the computer is. Beyond that,
can you not just play the backing tracks back through some other device?
Well, that's also a suggestion, but that's less. Yeah, like I say, the actual backing tracks are not the intensive part. You might think they should be because there might be lots of them, but that's the other thing. If there are a lot,
it doesn't really matter, does it? Yeah.
No, because it's just hitting play. If your backing tracks have plugins and processing, all that kind of stuff on them, render that down, flatten that out, bounce it out so it's just a stereo track, or whatever separate outputs you need. If you're sending separate bass to front of house, separate drums to front of house, if you do it that way, and some bands do, render it all down, flatten it all down. That takes all the load away. Even the bands with the best performing computers in the world live, they render it all down because they don't want to deal with the potential instability and the extra load that the computer would have to run.
Yeah, so it sounds like Adam's right. Then you need it's your interface, then, isn't it? Bounce it all down, and then if you're automating all your VSTs and stuff, then check your load on your computer in Task Manager. Just check that your RAM and your CPU aren't flying. I think it's easy enough to check that. Control Shift Escape. Have a look at what's happening while you're playing it back.
Yeah.
If everything there is under max load, then it's your interface.
Yes. I mean, the other option is, backing tracks. Like I say, they use very little CPU usage just to play them back. good CPU kind of helps, but not really, because if you're just playing back tracks, that's 0% CPU usage, absolutely 0%. And yeah, that has no bearing on anything really. You could play 100 tracks back at once, but if there's no processing happening on them, they just flow through. They don't do anything. But yeah, if you're using VSTs and automating them, the other option is, if you were going to spend money, stop using VSTs. Use something like, I don't know, a Pod Go or a Helix Floor or something like that. Spend the money on that and then connect that via USB to the computer and have the DAW automate the changes on that pedal board, because then that's taking all the load off the computer, and all the computer's doing then is the super easy thing of playing some WAV files and sending a little bit of MIDI. No processing, which means no dropouts. And also latency then isn't an issue because of latency compensation in the DAW. So everything will just run flawlessly at that point. Like my good friend John Brown from Monuments has toured the world with his setup, and he uses a laptop with backing tracks. That does not have any processing on any of those backing tracks because they've all been rendered. He doesn't have any sound going through that laptop either. He just has MIDI changes going out to his Pod XT of all things. But he also will use a tube amp as well, but he'll just use a switcher to turn them on and off at the right times. And that way there's no risk, there's no danger.
Yeah, sounds like, to me, that sounds like the best idea to me.
Yeah,
using things what the best at, like those boxes are designed for that scenario for live.
Yeah.
You're not going to get a Windows update on them.
Yes, absolutely.
As well. So the worst case scenario, you can do it without the automation and get some sort of sound out of it.
I mean, the other potential for taking things away is, I've used a thing this week called Windows 10 Debloater, which has helped to clean my laptop out something fierce. There were a lot of background processes going on that have been just got rid of and killed, which is really cool. Like little things like, is your camera frozen?
Yeah, apparently it has.
Huh, weird. Oh, have I done the thing where I minimized? Yeah, I've done the thing where I minimized Discord because I'm stupid. But yeah, things like Windows 10 sticky notes and compatibility telemetry and stuff like that.
The compatibility thing is a big one.
Yeah, so I used Windows 10 Debloater. I don't know why I didn't do it before, but that got rid of all of it. CCleaner does not do that, by the way. CCleaner doesn't do what Windows 10 Debloater does. It doesn't get rid of all the unnecessary elements in Windows 10. Oh, Zach's got a good point. RIP MF Doom. I had forgotten that had been announced this week. Apparently MF Doom, the rapper, passed away in October, but the news was only put out this week. He's one of our friend Seb's favourite rappers. Apparently rapped about food a lot.
Yeah, it's a sad time. I mean, Dr. Dre was in hospital as well, wasn't he?
Was he?
I don't know if he still is. Brain aneurysm.
Oh, wow.
So it's I'm not sure how he's doing. I haven't heard any more, but I haven't heard any bad news. So hopefully that means good news. And Kanye and I saw Kanye's maybe getting divorced. That's music news, isn't it? I don't know.
Is it?
Who cares?
Yeah.
Right. Anyway, on that news that no one cares about.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, someone was saying something about Windows 10 Enterprise, but you can't get Windows 10 Enterprise unless you are in an enterprise. Unless there's some method of getting hold of that we shouldn't be talking about. So that's not an option. So never mind. Thank you everybody for tuning in, and we'll see you all next week. There'll be many videos in the meantime because I've got a lot to release. I'll see you shortly. Goodbye. Hey everyone. That might be the end of the video, but if you fancy carrying on this conversation, we have a Discord server. Link is in the description. We're also on Patreon, which is something you can really help us with. We also are on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Hop Hole Studios. See you there.